Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Family Couch. Today I am here with Heather Criswell of Wise Inside, and we're going to be talking about how to find your internal wise inside. So Heather, thank you so much for being on with us today.
Yay, thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
So before we jump into the interview, Heather, can you give us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Wow. Well, I'm going to give you the little bit of that. I have been working with children for the past 25 years, over 30,000 kids. And in that time frame, I've really learned how to follow my own wisdom and how to help the children follow their own wisdom as well. So it's been a long process. In that time frame, I owned a preschool for years. I got super tired and sold the school and opened a wellness center where we had a lot of holistic approaches to. So I got a little bit of balance of what it was like to work with kids, what it was like to work with the parents.
Yes.
And kind of blend those together with also alternative ways of how do we navigate this life in the best way that we possibly can. So over that time frame, I co-authored a book, How to Raise a Happy Child and Be Happy Too. And that book is really all about how do we get into our own space of what feels good for us as a parent? How do we see the greatness in ourselves? Yes. How do we check into our energy of what we're bringing to the story? Yes. And how do we see the greatness in our children as well? Especially when, they're in a temper tantrum in the middle of Target.
Right.
And people are videoing it to put it on YouTube. Yeah. So that's what that book is all about. Right. And just recently, I just released another book, which is a totally different space, but interconnected, which is called Wise Talk from the Other Side, where I actually document how I connected with my family from the other side of the veil that had passed on. And all of their wisdom that they really wanted to share on this planet and didn't have the voice to. And so I took their voices and integrated it into this beautiful book. And it's all about how in life we circle back to love. That's what we're here for, is love for ourselves, our children, and each other. Yeah. So it's been a process, and I've been in it, weaving in and out of parenting, and now I'm kind of weaving in and out of humanity. Yeah. How do we grow in this place and be the best version of ourselves? And to my mom's point, every morning it dawned on me on a Facebook Live that I did that my mom used to say to me every day, all right, it's time to rise and shine. And I never really took it to heart. I was like, oh, I'm not getting out of bed again. I was miserable. I needed my sleep. But it was profound. Rise and shine. Yeah. And that's really what we're here to do, is rise up in our greatness and shine it out to the world. Yeah. That we can light the way, and kind of the dark corners of the world we can light up, and everybody can feel that love for each other.
I love it. And I've always loved connecting with that piece of you, because even when you were talking about parenting, I think at some point you were also talking about how we move forward as a society, because the way that we parent our children, the way that we care for our children, becomes the next generation of children who lead our society. So I think you've kind of always been on that wavelength, even though you're kind of just now getting to humanity in your books and stuff. I feel like you've always been on that wavelength of understanding that our next generation is a really important piece of how we think about ourselves now and what we're doing now.
Absolutely. And we often come from a space of disempowerment. Mm-hmm. And when I think that's where a lot of things happen in our lives, that we are feeling disempowered, whether it's in our relationships or in our job, or our doctor says that you're going to die. Yeah. And I've witnessed people with terrible cancer rehabilitate themselves without any chemotherapy and radiation. Right. So I've witnessed a lot of things that when we feel disempowered, that's when we feel the worst about ourselves and each other. Yeah. And it's even our government right now, right?
Yeah.
So our job is to really connect back into that wisdom for ourselves.
Right.
And reignite that power within us, that why we were here, why are we even born?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping to help people do, is
I love it.
Find that wisdom within and reignite that power, so that you don't have to feel disempowered, and our children won't feel disempowered.
Yes. And so, let's talk a little bit about that, because the idea is that we're going to be talking about how to find your whys inside. And I think sometimes we discredit ourselves, or I'll use your word, we feel disempowered about how our experiences that actually shaped our wisdom. So can you talk to us a little bit about how do you find that whys inside? How do you find your wisdom if you feel like you're just screwing it up every which way?
It's one of the most challenging things that I think we are faced with, because we are inundated with solicited and, more importantly, unsolicited advice throughout the day. Whether it's about our parenting, or how our body should be, or how our mind should be. You should meditate, you shouldn't meditate. It's just a constant bombardment of information. And so we are constantly looking in another direction instead of centering into ourselves of what feels good to me in this moment. Is it really in my best interest to meditate? Or does meditation look like 20 minutes for me? Or does it look like I go for a walk in the park and just feel the air and let it touch my skin and breathe in life? It's really finding that wisdom within. And it's a real challenge. And I actually have created a meditation for that in particular, because even my own friends, they'd say, you always talk about go to your check into yourself, be wise inside. And they're like, we don't know how.
Right.
So I think we have, over time, our children, we come on this planet super wise, right? We know when we need to eat, we know when we need to drink, we know what we want, we know what we need. And as time goes on, we slowly get stripped of that wisdom, if you will, where we're like, no, I know what's better for you. No, that's not good for you. No, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. And it happens over time, right? As adults as well. So my goal is to help us all keep that wisdom within, and obviously keep our children safe. Of course, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, sure, just run in the street and it's all good. I'm sure you'll be fine. You're wise inside,
Right.
But it's really tapping into that wisdom of, how does that feel in your heart?
Right.
So when my son has a disagreement with his friend and he punches him, how does it feel in your heart to really hurt somebody?
Yeah.
That's not who you are. Yeah. The wisdom in you is that you are an amazing friend, and you didn't really have the words or didn't know how to communicate your needs and wants.
Right.
So how can I help you do that?
Right.
That's really keeping them connected to that wisdom of greatness and love. And so as adults, we can do that for ourselves. And the biggest thing that I ask myself is, what am I wanting, right? So when I'm in a situation, and as simple as my husband wants to go to Mexican food and I want to go to pizza.
Right.
And he's like, well, how about Mexican food? And I'm like, okay, all right, let's go.
Right.
I'm frustrated. I don't really want Mexican food. I want pizza. And I mean, something as simple as that, but how it can also blow up into this space of having a terrible experience at the restaurant, getting your order wrong, it just dominoes, right?
Yes.
So, and then consequently, it'll usually end in a fight. Well, I really wanted pizza. Well, why didn't you tell me you wanted pizza?
Yeah.
Instead of in the moment, he says, I want Mexican food. You say to yourself, what am I wanting? I really want pizza. Now, here's the deal, right? I'd really like some pizza. I don't really want some pizza. So how can we cooperate instead of compromise necessarily, but cooperate together to make that magic? So maybe we go to a place that offers both, or, maybe we go here this time and the next time we go out, we go to my place, or vice versa. So it's really owning what we're wanting in any given moment.
Yeah.
And I had that experience with some friends of ours. They're friends of my husband's, and, they want to go out and spend lots of money and have fun in what they deem as fun. And that's not fun for me. Right. And so I had to have a moment with my husband and say, I really love you. I love them. but I'd rather spend $70 on a dress right now, like, you know, versus some food that I'm going to have to work out and work out harder and probably not enjoy. My son is probably going to be miserable sitting there for 2.5 hours. So I had to have that talk with him. He goes, I totally understand. I didn't know that's what was going on. Yeah. And so we kind of detoured this whole experience of like being frustrated. He's not taking care of my son. I have to make small talk, you know, the whole spiel. So it's really asking ourselves in any given moment. And we are so disconnected from what we're wanting. That's the problem.
I agree.
We have been talked out of and taught to ignore what we want to serve others and serve the world. But the problem with that is if we don't serve ourselves first, we're unhappy. And when we're unhappy, we make bad decisions. You know, bad choices or choices that are not in our best interest or our highest good. So I think it's really important, and especially as moms, we kind of distance ourselves from that space of, oh, that looks selfish. But the truth is what I'm wanting 5 minutes to myself. So can you give me 5 minutes and then we'll reset and start again? But it's really that question of, what am I wanting right here, right now, and stopping and breathing it in for ourselves.
Right. And what I'm hearing here, you know, the overarching theme is that being wise or finding your wise inside really comes from being vulnerable and showing self-empathy. Like you get into that vulnerable space. It's not so much like, Heather, this is what I'm going to do, but it's more like, okay, Mercedes, what do you want? That means you have to tap into your own vulnerability and your own empathy. You have to do what you just said, which is to reconnect to something that people have told you not to reconnect to, right?
Truly.
Say, I want pizza. Like, again, that might feel really trivial, but in that moment, being able just to say it, right? It taps into that vulnerability of, am I worthy enough? Do I get to say what I want? You know, is me wanting something, does that mean that I am worthy enough to say these things? And I think that for me, that feels like the foundation of finding your whys inside, just tapping back into your own vulnerability and your own empathy and your own compassion.
And that's really beautifully put, because it really defines what's happening.
Yeah.
And again, it's something that we have been literally going away from our entire life. And how that looks on a playground is when something happens, you tell them you're sorry. You know, you tell them that you're not going to do it again. You make him feel better. You make him happy. Like you do X, Y, Z to make sure that people are happy. And then we do it as adults. But the truth is when we act from a space that's not wise inside, when we act from a space of what we have to do to try and make somebody happy, it's never going to work.
No.
Because we're not responsible for their feelings. No. We're responsible for our actions in the moment. And how do we autocorrect or self-correct in that moment? Right. But I cannot be responsible for your feelings and how you take it. And we teach our children, make him happy, you know, put an ice pack on his hand and make him feel better. Say you're sorry. And of course it's all about, I'm not saying don't ever say you're sorry. I'm saying that let's have this heartfelt moment of, that's not like you. You're not like that. You are an amazing friend. What's going on? How can I help you? And let's say to our friend, you know what? I made a mistake. I really am going to work to talk to you instead of hit you. And if you choose not to play with me, I understand. Right.
And I feel like that's wise, and like that's that wise inside piece where it's like, I'm not just saying sorry because it's societally appropriate to say sorry. I'm actually looking to say, wow, what I did, I didn't want to do. And we're also giving our kids the opportunity to say, no, mom, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to punch that person. Because then you can help them through that. You know, but if you tell them just to say sorry, then you don't get to know either way. Was this who my kid is? You know, you end up getting a kid who does things that you don't know anymore because you kept telling them to say sorry. So they kept pushing themselves further and further. And if you don't mind me kind of going further on my soapbox, I feel like that's what ends up happening to the parents, right? They were that kid who got told to say sorry, be good, always do for others. And they grow into a parent who doesn't really know how to trust themselves all the time. Like, should I do this? Should I not? Should I do, you know, it's like, because no one ever gave you the space to trust what you did. Right. They told you to do what was societally appropriate, especially if you're a girl. I know girls get that a lot, and boys do too. We get it on different levels, right? Of this, you're supposed to be this way. This is how you're supposed to be. Then we grow into people who become parents who have never had a space to be authentically ourselves and be wise inside, so to speak.
Right, exactly. And, to your point, we do different things for, girls and boys. And I even experienced it on the playground recently when my son was like, this child kept trying to play with them. And he eventually got to a space where the kid literally backed him up into a train.
Right.
And he pushed him away.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, if it was a girl, it would have been a different story. But because it was a boy pushing him away, like if the girl, we say, well, good for her, stand up for yourself. Yeah. She's empowered, she's strong. And with the boy, well, he's a bully, he's aggressive, and I thought that was a really interesting way that, again, we have been inundated with this information of non-truth. It's myth. And when I had to check into myself of like, is my kid being a bully? And that's a whole nother story about bullying that Danielle Matthews on your last family couch we talked about. We talked about with Danielle. But, in that space, do we really have the moment to say to ourselves, like, let's reevaluate this situation. Let's take the time to invest in our children in that space where they can be heard.
Yes.
For everything that's going on. And whether or not the behavior is acceptable or not is not the end goal.
Right.
The end goal is that both parties feel heard, acknowledged, valued.
Right.
And the only way to do that is to communicate, not shut it down.
Right. Or label it. Because I think once you label a kid as bully victim, then that person no longer has any validity. It's like, oh, I'm just a victim. I can't ever stand up for myself. Or I'm the bully. I know I can do it. It's like we label our kids so quickly without really, like you said, giving them the space to talk about what happened. And I feel like when you put that label on bad versus good, then the kid doesn't get to talk about, well, I did this because, right? This is what was going on for me. I didn't know what I was doing, or I felt really scared, or I felt really like I had to, or, like we don't give our kids that space to say that. And I think, again, that really messes up that process of developing your wise inside kind of understanding, because you're waiting for someone else to tell you what to do, as opposed to knowing what to do inside from yourself, from internally.
And trusting that wisdom within, that even if it feels like it's a mistake, it's in the highest good.
Yes.
So, maybe I decide to give my son some, homeopathic remedies, and it's just not working.
Right.
And then I change to Mucinex because I've just had it. Right. That not feeling bad one way or another, just knowing that internally, I know that I'm doing the best I can with my child, and I'm allowing as much information to come in, and do I feel good with that information?
Right.
And it goes across the board, whether you breastfeed or not, co-sleep or not, vaccinate or not, right? That there is an internal wisdom that we all have, and to trust that guidance, and stop ignoring it, and allow it to actually guide us through life.
And, as you talk about some of those, controversial ideas that you were just sharing, I think that kind of goes in line, though, with this idea of shaming our parents, that when they make a choice, that we immediately label them as good or bad, based on whatever those choices are. And that doesn't really allow our parents to say, like you said, I love the example that you say, I started off doing homeopathic remedies for a cold, and I realized, we got to get this out. So I went and got a prescription or something. Like, giving a parent that space to figure that out, I think, is really healthy. But when we say, oh my God, homeopathic medicine, that's some witch oil, what are you doing? Then you don't get the space to figure out if you want to get a prescription, because you're too busy defending your homeopathic decision, like you don't have any space.
Right. I love that. You don't have space. I love that. That is so brilliant. You don't have the space. Oh gosh, that has to be highlighted, because it's so true. That is so brilliant what you just said. This is why I love you, because you don't have that space to actually explore, to your point. And the truth is our son had terrible strep throat a couple of years ago, throat completely swollen up. I said, got to take him to the doctor. We do everything we can, because I am from a holistic background. We do everything we can. And then, of course, if your arm's cut off, I'm not going to do an acupressure point and hope it gets better. I'm going to go to the hospital and get him to sew it back on. So we went to the doctor, we got the prescriptions, and the prescriptions didn't touch him. And it didn't do anything for him. And I had this moment where I was like, I doubted myself, because I was like, I don't think the prescriptions are going to help, but we'll just do it, because it's what we're supposed to do, right? And it didn't help. And then we went back to a different remedy that actually worked. So again, is it right or wrong? No, we had to have that experience, that space for ourselves. So that I could know that I should have probably followed my intuition and my wisdom, you know, and that's okay. It just took us another week and a half to heal, you know, and God help my son, you know, in that space. But there was, you know, a real space that we were able to find that for ourselves. And I think that all of us are going through, especially parents in this paradigm right now, because we have some strong souls coming on this planet. They are powerful beings, and they are going to tell you, no, it's not going to happen that way. This is how we're rolling. And we have to have the tools to actually communicate with them in a way that honors their wisdom and love, and also allows them and guides them to, this is a better way to communicate that if that's what you're wanting, buddy. Like, you know, instead of knocking your friend out, a better way to communicate that where people can hear you, because that's what you want, right? You want to be heard. Is this way. That's what I feel like we're here to do, is kind of guide them in that space of how do we communicate. And to your point, we have to do that for ourselves first. Because we are parents doing our best to teach our children something that we haven't really grasped ourselves yet.
Right. And I think, you know, one of the things that I was thinking as you were talking, I was thinking one of the things that I think impedes your wise inside journey is that idea that you don't have any space to figure these things out. Like, you don't have the space to make that mistake. So you're constantly making all of these decisions that are outside of that wisdom you have inside, because you're trying to meet the status quo. You're trying to be the good parent. You're trying to be the parent that everyone else isn't looking down on. You're trying to be that person that everyone is patting on the back as opposed to shaking a finger at. And as a result, you're not really tapping into your own self-empathy, as you said, right? I can't empathize with my kid if I can't even give myself space to mess up as a parent and to not get it right. So then how can I give my child space to throw a tantrum when I said no to the second piece of, you know, cake that I told him he can't have? I can't do that, you know?
Right. Exactly. And that's, I mean, even in our own lives, in our world here, you know, when my son pulls my cat's tail, right? And he feels bad about it. And then he gets angry because now he's made a mistake and he doesn't know how to handle that mistake. I can meet that anger and be like, you don't pull his tail. That's not nice. That's not nice to the cat. You know, you're in trouble. You're in timeout. You're going to get this taken away, whatever, right? But what I found for me, and this is for me, the more effective way is, buddy, what's going on? Because you love Jax the cat. Jax the cat is your cat, man. Like, he loves you, you love him. So what's going on? Were you excited? Were you nervous? Were you mad that he was leaving? You know, let's figure this out. And next time, here's what you can do to feel better about yourself. Because when he pulls the tail and I looked at him funny, he looked at me, he goes, oh, Mommy, Jakey's a disaster. And I was like, oh my gosh, my kid's saying he's a disaster. Like, where did you hear this? And I was like, buddy, you know better than that. And that's where we have a chance to connect back into the wisdom. You know better than that. You are not a disaster. You are an amazing light on this planet. And something happened where you made a choice that wasn't in your best interest and the cat's interest. So let's figure that out. And it requires time. I'm not going to lie. I mean,
yes, you have to like literally sit down and do that, right?
Time, it's effort, it's energy. But you either do the energy on the front end or the back end, right? Like, you're going to have energy that's trying to figure it out and help him work and navigate through it. Or you're going to have energy of trying to punish him in a way that he won't do it again, maybe. And probably will do it again, but not let you see it. You know? And it also allows our children in that space to detour the whole lying process altogether. No, they don't have to lie. They can own what they've done, and we can figure out a solution. And that may be a consequence, you know? It may be a certain consequence, you know, depending on your household. But what I will say is, even with our own son, I've noticed that even if he starts to get uncomfortable and he says, nothing, I'll say, buddy, you know, we can talk this out. We can work anything out on this planet. I'm here for you. You're here for me. We are in this together. So no matter what happens, we're going to figure this out. And he goes, okay, well,
right.
I took this toy, or, I took your USB drive that had all of my information on it, or, I had some holy water from a holy church, and he dumped it in my candle, and I was like, why is there water in my holy water?
Yeah.
And I had to have a moment where I was like, you know what? Then the holy water just evaporates in the air with the candle. Like, so be it. It's holy water. It was, and really own sometimes it's just what happens. And, and I did have a conversation with him in that moment. Those are mom's things.
Yes.
And we had that moment together. And I also said, it was a mistake. Let's work on honoring each other's stuff. Okay.
Right.
Got it done. Right. And consequently, he's left all my little trinkets on my desk alone. So
nice.
It's really about reconnecting into that inner wisdom is really about, we are love on this planet. We are here to love each other. And it's not about consequences and we got to prove ourselves to each other. We just have to see the greatness in each other, even when it's the most challenging. And it's hard.
And I think that's the hard part. I think it's easy to do that. Yeah, it's easy to do that when we're all kind of on the same wavelength. I think it's harder when we know that this other person, whether it be our child or spouse or friend, another parent, whatever, it's hard sometimes to say this person is just as worthy of their opinion as I am. Right. And I think that, again, I love this idea of wise inside. I feel like I'm going to take this with me and be like, okay, use my wise inside right now to figure this out. But it's that thing. And I think, you mentioned our current government. I think that's even a harder time to really be able to say other people have other opinions than me. Okay, what does this look like for me? How do I maintain myself while other people are doing things that I might not agree with, or I don't understand, or I don't like, and I think that it's a big wise inside moment for us all. I think, especially now.
It is. And I think that this time frame right now is really allowing us all to rise up in our power and our greatness. And, one of the stories I tell is that my husband, he's a contractor, and he had to count lights in a house one day. And I said, oh, yeah, so hard. You had to count lights, And he's like, yeah, when there's a 16,000 square foot house and 328 lights, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I started laughing, and I realized that the bigger the house, the more lights we need, right? And so it's our responsibility to not look outside of you turn your light on. No, you turn your light on. No, you turn your light on. It's our responsibility to connect back into that wisdom of what is your light and how are you going to shine so bright that you eliminate the darkness wherever you are, right?
Oh, I love that.
Wherever you walk, the darkness fades away.
Yeah.
And occasionally you might look over in the corner and see somebody in a closet of the house or in, hiding in the pantry. And you say, come on, I'll flip the light on for you. I'll shine bright in there. And you come out and shine too, because we need you.
Yeah.
God,
that's so amazing.
We need you.
Yeah.
We need to shine bright.
Yeah.
And we are responsible for our light. So find what you love and shine bright.
That's like so beautiful. And I was going to ask you, what would you say to someone who's looking to find their wise inside? And I feel like that's it. It's like, find your light and shine, whatever that is. I love that piece of it so much.
And the light can be anything, right? Maybe you're just one of those people that naturally walks down the street and smiles at everybody. You are changing the world with a smile.
Yep.
That's it. It doesn't have to be something amazing and huge and, it doesn't have to be the Steve Jobs of the world, because all of us are part of Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs has allowed all of us to shine bright through technology.
I love it.
Our iPods and our iPhones and
exactly.
My beautiful Mac computer that I'm talking to you on.
exactly.
So I
love it.
He turned on the light for millions. We can turn on the light for one or millions. And here's the cool part. You turn on the light for one, you are affecting millions.
Yeah. I love it. And Heather, I know we could talk about this all day. I'm like sitting here thinking about like a million questions I can ask you, but I definitely want to give you a space to let our audience know how they can connect with you and how they can contact you.
Yeah. So wiseinside.com is my digital home of where everything is.
Yeah.
My books are there. I actually just released a new meditation that can help you connect back into that wisdom for yourself. Because I had a lot of people that were like, we still don't know how to do it, man. So it's a really cool meditation. It's called Calling All Souls Meditation. And it's 99 cents. So it's super easy breezy for everybody to have access to. And I did that on purpose because I want everybody to be able to reconnect to that wisdom and reignite that power. So, and of course my books are on the website, and I have games to help support families and communication, games for teachers. So there's a little bit of everything in there. So any resources or tools that you need to help reconnect yourself, your children, and each other back to that wisdom, back to that love, wiseinside.com.
I love it. And even though that was a very easy URL, don't fret if you didn't write it down. That link will be in the show notes under this video. So please feel free to check that out and connect with Heather and her amazing Wise Inside information and resources. Well, Heather, it has been amazing having this conversation with you. Thank you so much for taking the time out to share with our audience your expertise and your wisdom.
Well, thank you so much. I just love what you do, Mercedes, and you are lighting the world. So I'm glad to be in your light with you.
Thank you so much. See ya.
Bye.